And last but not least, Star Trek Discovery Season 3.
Right. Yeah.
This is going to be a pretty interesting review here, right? So,
Yeah.
Ricardo, well, I want you to do the synopsis for this, right? But
Sure.
just I want to do the intro. So here's the thing, right? We both covered the first season together. The second season I missed out because of time, but you reviewed it, you loved it. I actually like re-listened to the review after watching season 3 now, after watching season 2, sorry, right? Because I had to do a
Right.
recap as I always do. I was like, oh, okay, right, those things that you mentioned here, you know what I mean? Especially, well, I'm gonna bring it up later, post Nemesis content, which we
Right.
do get here in this season here, you know what I mean? And for the most part, I agree with you though, especially with that finale, which is just goddamn awesome in my opinion. You know, what I mean, J.J. Abrams fans who love
Correct.
the Star Trek trilogy of his films would love he probably love that finale there. But I was really curious to see where they're gonna take things with the season here, especially with the way how they ended with the wormhole and going forward into time and all that kind of stuff, right? So.
Right.
Ricardo, take it away. Season 3, Star Trek
Right.
Discovery. What is it about?
So they finally pulled the trigger on what I wanted them to do.
Yep.
And Discovery
Yep.
is roughly 930 years into the future, right? Because of the events of season 2. What happens? The season starts with Michael Burnham going, because she was leading the ship with the Red Angel suit, into the future. She lands and she has a whole adventure having to make sense of the new world, well, the new universe, what's going on. To have this event called the Burn, and she's not sure what's going on. And then she meets a guy called Cleveland Booker. He's this kind of courier / not mercenary, but more courier kind of traveler. He's basically the Han Solo of this world, right? Of the Star Trek universe. If you know,
and he's
if you know
played by
TNG,
he's played by
right?
boy David Ajala, right? Who left Supergirl to join
right?
the Star
He
Trek
play
universe. Good
he was in
call. Good
Supergirl, like
call.
no, Manchester Black
Manchester
in
Black, yeah.
Supergirl, right? Yeah. So basically, right, this character of Cleveland Booker, if you remember from TNG, there was a character called O'Connor, right? One of the worst characters ever conceived, right? And the idea was to make him like a kind of Han Solo of the Trek universe. And like, holy shit, this character is terrible. Don't give that show. It's an episode called The Outrageous O'Connor, one of the worst Trek episodes. They basically write that this character is like a better written version of that concept, but it's fully justified and makes sense in this world. So what happens at episode 2 now? The Discovery arrives and have to struggle with their whole thing. They were crashing into this planet, and then you find out that Michael Burnham has been in the future for roughly a year. So they arrive a year later after her, because of the time dilation or whatever it is, right? Whatever timey-wimey nonsense, right? And that's it. So it's the crew of Discovery stuck in the future, and they don't want to go back because of what happened with Control, and they want to just sort out, well, the new Federation and what's going on in 900 years, what happened since they left. And well, for fans, it's a huge gap in time from what we know in Star Trek canon, which is like roughly, I want to say about 600 or 700 years from that period, right? And the last stuff we saw was effectively, well, Star Trek Picard, and what that had to do. So it's all of that canon, and then all of the potential canon of time travel shenanigans. So stuff from the 28th century, some from the 30th century, stuff from thing, and they mostly answer almost all of it. In this, they at least I say address all of it. And that is the story. The central conceit of the season is something called the Burn. So for some reason or the other, something happens, some big event that causes dilithium to go in Earth. And what that happens, it caused any active warp core to become unstable, and it destroyed it. And this massively crippled the Federation. And the Federation now kind of downsized itself. It lost a lot of planets, because most people can't really go to warp anymore, or can't use warp, or at least warp is something that is very difficult to pull off. They have to utilize well the spore drive from Discovery to actually bring things back, and you get to see what the Federation looks like and what they have to struggle with. They introduce a bunch of new and really cool and interesting characters.
Mm-hmm.
Most notably, I thought I really, really enjoyed this character, and I really want to see more of him going forward. This is Oded Fair, if you remember him from the
Yes.
Mummy
For
movies.
the mummy, yeah. He
Yeah,
plays Charles Vance. He's one of my
plays
favorite
right.
characters
He
in
plays
the show as well.
yes,
Yeah.
he plays Admiral Vance, right, and that's it. It's just Discovery having to address all these future problems and what Discovery could have to do with and handle this and character stuff. And yeah, actually pretty solid season. This is where the show should have been from the start, I would argue. As I said, remember I made the statement that the purpose of season 2 is just a backdoor pilot for Strange New Worlds, and I still hold on to that position. I still think
Right.
narratively they should have jumped to the future from since episode 13 of season 1, but whatever. We're here. It's a better late than never type scenario, and I really mostly enjoyed this season. I have some reservations. Nothing to, have a meltdown about, but I had some issues with the season. But it was still pretty good for what it was. And it had a couple episodes that really stood out. The episode introducing, well, not introducing, but focusing on the one of the new characters, Adira.
Well, sorry to stop you there, but I think it's fair for this review here that we could get a little spoilery. Like, let me get a little spoilery this
Yeah.
time.
We getting a little
Why
spoiler, but
not? Why not?
I just want to just mention quick highlights, and then we'll talk about it. Highlights. The episode focusing on Adira, right? They is a new character. This character is really, really, really interesting and pretty cool. It's a new trill. Well, it's a new human trill character, and this character is actually a pretty has a lot of potential. I want to see what they're going to do with this character going forward. And then there's an episode that I really thoroughly loved called Unification Tree, and you'll know why. um, this one is a really, really great call back to ETNG era, and it's a great evolution of the world. I had a lot of fun with this episode.
Yeah,
People of
I have a feeling fans loved this one. I
right,
just picked up on it from what the
right,
concept was. Like, all right, this
yeah.
is for the
I mean,
fans.
for
For
me,
sure.
it was a truly fantastic episode. And yeah, then the finale itself was a little underwhelming, and then the explanation behind the burn was a little underwhelming, but it had an implication that I liked. Um, so we could just talk about, like, it had nothing to talk about in depth unless you're gonna just get into true spoilers. But what they decided to just make it a lot more episodic, but they still have a narrative arc. But the narrative arc didn't have the best payoff, but they had a bunch of cool little ideas. And then they had a lot of great thing involving one of the characters who I thought would have stuck around for a little longer, but they had to leave the show. This was Emperor Jojo. They did a big deep cut call back with her with the Guardian of Forever. Like, holy shit, they actually did that. So
Okay,
yeah.
so that wasn't a new character.
Oh,
Oh,
that
okay.
that, that was like that's an old classic Star Trek episode. But
Oh
they
wow.
yeah. So the thing with it is that it's a lot of callbacks. The main thing with it is, here's what the thing. The purpose of the season was to truly reset the show, like truly reset the show. So they wanted to just have a complete blank slate, and they come up with all kind of reasons and explanations. And they don't explain everything properly, but they do enough of a job for you to say, all right, I could ignore this or let that go. One of the big critiques of Star Trek Discovery is that the show is so different aesthetically that it feels as if it was a different timeline. And a lot of people still argue that it's a different timeline. It's not. It's still prime timeline as it is. But here's the thing, because that statement of timelines is a really loaded statement in the Star Trek universe, because Star Trek always had a trouble with timelines anyway, right? Going forward, because, well, the franchise is 50 goddamn years. That's why. No writer's going to keep this in check, and they have to do a lot of rechecking. But that is actually a pretty smart move when the writers, by saying, all right, let us do this, and we could explain it away and lampshade. And that's why I had no problem with most of it going forward. Like, here's one. Worrying about timelines doesn't matter because everything is after the quote unquote temporal wars. This was something that was in Enterprise. Enterprise had something called the
Yeah.
temporal wars.
Oh,
And
okay. It was from that show. Okay.
right. Again, you have to know your Star Trek deep cut kind of stuff, right? And because everything now time travel is abolished, it has one timeline, and that timeline doesn't matter. So worrying about causality doesn't really matter, but it still seems to follow a workable timeline, because we see the episode Unification Tree that references events from Star Trek: The Next Generation, and then we see that episode also references stuff from Star Trek Picard, which happens literally hundreds of years earlier, and stuff like that, and so on and so forth. I had no problem with it because you just stick to the character stuff, and it's whether or not you like it or not, and it's up to you. I, as I say, the three characters that stood out for me was Blue Del Barrio as Adira. He was, I was saying, she's it's they were pretty good.
Yeah.
Oded Fair as Vance, he was pretty damn good, and then David Cronenberg as Kovic. Holy shit!
Yes, he was in
Yeah,
this. Like, I
it's
was
a
like,
great
what?
character, and he coming back for season 4. Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
awesome. I dug
At
it for
first, I was like, wait, I'm not sure if this could work. Him,
right.
well, not because big director and all that, but just him being him. Now, I was like,
Yeah,
no, this actually working. They're like, what?
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. We don't know what he's about yet, but he's still pretty awesome for what it is. They do a good job with the aesthetics and resetting of it, as I say. The big letdowns was the main antagonist of the season, right, Osira. She was pretty one note, but then they had one episode with her that was pretty cool, like that episode, the second to last episode with her, where she had to
Oh,
negotiate.
okay, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, especially that moment where she was talking to
To
Vance
Vance.
himself.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so that was a great
Uh,
moment. Yeah.
yeah, great episode, and they have a great back and forth about what they did there, because they tried to do the whole noble tyrant kind of thing with her and give her a little bit of depth, but she's more tyrant than noble, and they I like that she tried to clean up her image and how she's kind of a bullshitter when you think about it. No, it's good. All of that is good trick stuff. Um, Book is a character that they could have done more with, I felt, but I liked him for what it was. We get enough. We just see his backstory and his brother, and they give an episode about him. Enough. That was good enough. And
Right.
then they revealed something about him at the end of the season, which I liked. I didn't have a problem with that at all.
Well, here's the thing with that. Because when I heard it, I was like, this is really cool, though. But
Right.
because I'm not a Trekkie, I had to be like a diehard Trekkie to pick up on it.
Yeah.
So, is this person that he's named after, right? Is that a real character in Star
No.
Trek lore?
No, I don't think so. But I think it's something to do with it's something else. They didn't explain it fully, but they'll probably explain it. No, what they reveal about it is what he could have done, what he's capable of at the end of the season. Like he becomes a
Oh,
plot
okay.
device,
I thought
right?
it was the whole name thing because he
No, the
mentioned,
name thing, the
my
name thing is just a
name
side,
was
right? Yeah.
right.
Now the name thing was just a side thing. And then the other thing I really appreciate about this new season is, well, the new technology. We get to see a bunch of shit that was not in the Trek universe, and then a bunch of stuff that they give themselves a lot of freedom. Again, all of this is just giving the Star Trek writers going forward sandbox, giant sandbox, because this is one of the biggest problems with Star Trek. Biggest problems with Star Trek, and I will admit, Star Trek writers has historically given themselves these problems, which is you're giving yourself a new scenario and you have to open yourself up, but you're constrained by the narrative, right? Sorry to say it. TNG was a decent enough reset, but then DS9 had to shake things up in its own way. And then Voyager messed things up by trying to do things in their own way. And I think Voyager as a whole didn't really embrace its premise enough for the whole show to work for me. Voyager have good episodes, but it was never good, if you think about it, right? That was my attitude about Voyager. And then
Right.
Enterprise made an even bigger mistake by trying to introduce new ideas, but also wanted to be a prequel at the same time. And it floundered. And again, when in retrospect, it's no surprise it got cancelled. Then JJ came along and said, all right, well, the franchise effectively died. So JJ came along and said, all right, well, I want to do this, that, or the other, but it was another reset. And then Discovery had to follow that premise. So Discovery now,
But
could tell
question. Sorry to stop you there. One
yeah,
sec, right? But all right. So the Blu-ray release of the Star Trek trilogy, right, of J.J. Abrams' one, right? They call
right,
that the Kelvin timeline, right? So
right,
isn't that a separate timeline from what
right.
we see in now
It
with
is.
Discovery
It
and all that
is.
stuff?
It is. It is a separate time, but that's not the point I was making. The issue is
Oh,
that
okay,
you
okay.
still have to cater to narrative conceits, right? You still don't have the freedom you want to. It is on timeline. And here's the cool thing about it: they do reference someone who came from that timeline, because of the temporal Cold War stuff, right? Is this character who suffered similar to what Giorgio was going through now? He comes from that timeline. Well, it's implied, strongly implied, he comes from that timeline because they mention
Right.
a Romulan mining ship. I was like, oh shit, Campbell timeline is canon. They actually bringing it back. It's not some because
Ah,
we know that Paramount and CBS merge back again now. So these both Star Trek timelines are a thing now. The movie and the TV show is not separate entities. So you could start using and overlapping stuff now if you want now. I I didn't love this season. I didn't love it, but I liked it for what it was. This is where the show should be. I felt they could have gotten here a little earlier, but this is where the show should be. And the ending I thought was excellent. I love that final
Oh,
thing where they
oh,
what they
yeah,
do.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
what they do there, they finally think. So I don't know. Okay, so the one last thing I'll mention, and you can talk, right? They do a big change involving the burn, right? So I don't want to spoil the burn per se, but the burn was kind of underwhelming what the burn was. I was kind of underimplied, but I kind of didn't care because I was so sick of the mystery box bullshit that I kind of glad that it had a banal explanation and it just kind of move on. However, there is a very interesting implication from the burn and the information we learn about it, which is dilithium is EZO now, if you know what that means, right? Dilithium, which is the same thing that went in Earth and was undermined in the because of the burn. Dilithium is the kind of the core for warp drive. Dilithium is similar to EZO, Element Zero from the Mass Effect franchise. And what EZO does, it does a certain thing that is very instrumental to Mass Effect. And now that's a thing in Star Trek as well. And that's a good idea. This is one example of taken from Mass Effect that I like, right? I like this idea that you could use narratively for what dilithium is capable of going forward. I like that. That is something that I'm really, really interested if they could use going forward in season 4 and onward. And then yeah. So I just in my last list of stuff. Yeah, as a season finale, it was a solid finale to overall good season. Cause of the Burn wasn't all that interesting on its own, but the implications of dilithium can affect biology. At least, well, in the storyline, Kelpian biology, that is not really a spoiler, but kind of. And I hope they do something with that, right? As I say, I don't expect them to be using pull or biotic charge from Mass Effect or anything like that, but you can now use dilithium for something else, narrative-wise, right? Instead of just being the thing that makes warp drive go warp drive, right? Unfortunately, the Osira character just stayed kind of one note. They was kind of doing something with her, but she was just an obstacle for the story. She was just a villain, just to be a villain. She was ultimately not that interesting to me, and they were just kind of going through the motions. The book character I like. I hope they do more with him. Still not really feeling him and Michael's, romance. Halfway. Way better than her
Okay.
relationship with Ash Tyler. Yeah, way better
Yeah,
than Ash
yeah, yeah.
Tyler.
True. Way better. Way better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she and Ash Tyler had not good chemistry at all. Right, the sphere
Mm.
data. I really wanted them to do more with this. Because one of the short
Yes.
treks had a whole thing with the sphere data, which was the short trek Calypso, which is pretty good. You should go see it. But they didn't do anything with it ultimately, and it kind of felt thing. New uniforms. I don't love the new uniforms, but they're okay. I kind of like them. They feel a bit too Kelvin timeline dress uniform, a little Starship Troopers with all that gray, but I still like it. That single stripe delineating your command or position. So one is yellow, the typical what we are accustomed to from TNG, which is red for
Hmm.
command, yellow for ops, and blue for sciences, and then white for medical now. I
Right.
like the uniforms. I can see myself buying it and going to a con with it, right? It look good and have a nice asymmetric vibe to it. Burnham as captain. Well, that is not really that much of a spoiler, but Burnham becomes captain at the end of the season. I like it, and her signature statement, "Let's fly," good. I like it. And this
Yeah,
is the reset with
it's one that had a grow on me. Like
yeah,
I thought
yeah,
it was
but
gonna be
it
some
was
more epic,
right.
but it would. It
But
would.
it's pretty good. They pay it off reasonably well. As I said,
Mm.
Oded Fair, I really want him to stay. Blue Del Barrio as Adira, I want them to stay. David Cronenberg as Kovic, I really liked him and I really want him to be fleshed out. Yeah, the show is really coming to its stride now. It did a proper status quo shake up and reset. As I said, I like season 1 except for those last 2 episodes, which are so stupid. And I still believe that that was a mistake of not jumping from the distant future since then. And as I said before, I had fun with season 2 and I enjoyed it for what it was, but it still felt like an extended backdoor pilot for Strange New Worlds. Like the only thing you was talking about from season 2 was Captain Pike, and hey, we gotta get a Captain Pike show. Um, but season 3 it held me. It had my attention. I liked it for what it was. I like the world building, and I'm actually pretty glad that a lot of people seem to be appreciating the show now. A lot of great ideas and implications going forward. So ultimately, I do give Star Trek Discovery season 3 8 out of 10, maybe a 9. There's a lot of better than worse. They could have worked out the details a little better, and I felt the burn could have had a better payoff. I kind of didn't give a shit because I really didn't care for the mystery boxing, as I said before. And then all the new designs and ideas and things, it's now opening itself up for creativity, and that's the most important thing in my opinion. To me, I find the old aesthetic was kind of stifling, and it was just bringing in people who were more concerned with continuity over creativity and originality and new concepts and ideas. I prefer that to this, right? I prefer, as I say, I prefer the big swing and the miss than the punt, right? So that's just me on Star Trek Discovery.
All right. Well, how do I follow up from what it is you said there, boy? I'll do my best, right? So here's the thing, right? As you all should know, I am not a Trekkie, right? I don't know everything Star Trek. I haven't even watched TOS as yet.
Right.
I grew up seeing episodes of The Next Generation, but if you ask me what went on in those episodes, I can't tell you. There's no characters, right?
Right.
Seen it with Deep Space Nine. I haven't seen Enterprise or Voyager
Right.
or well, whatever, right? But yeah. So for me, watching this, right, and this is from recapping the first two seasons, a great thing that I did it.
Right.
And seeing the changes that they made and even the callbacks to original content, which for me, I don't know, but I just like the fact that I could just tell, yeah, this is already part of something. It's not something they just pull out the ass, just make just because. It's part of the law of it, right?
Right.
Really made me appreciate, shockingly enough, Star Trek as a whole. So here's the thing, right? So as me, not as a non-Trekkie, I would say those Star Trek Discovery. Well, okay, I would say Star Trek was like I would just say like Abrams trilogy, right? Was the one that kind of brought it back to life. It breathed new life into it, right?
Exactly.
Because yeah, you know what I mean. Like I saw a majority of the movies; they were good for what they were. Some were horrible. You know what I mean? Like Nemesis. I skipped Nemesis, as you know. But yeah, you know what I mean. That JJ brought new life into this, right? Picard, I saw what they were going for, that they were trying to harken back to, old TNG, but because I don't know everything TNG, I didn't really get everything, but I got the vibe of what he was going for. That's the interesting thing about these new shows, right? I'm speaking as a non-Trekkie, right? I know all the Trekkies could pick and be like, well, this is going against what we know and all that kind of stuff, and this doesn't make any sense or whatever. But I just like the fact that you have what's like. I just like the fact that you have these shows here with these writers who could come and say, we grew up on this. We know. We want to be conscientious with this, but we also want to just hold on to the legacy that Gene Roddenberry gave us with this.
Right.
So we don't, if we have to make a call, it had to be the smartest call that we could think of, right?
Right.
And like we could go on our Reddit and read up what should be done for this next season and whatnot. We have to do our best. And I felt here with this show in particular, Discovery, and with this season 3 here, I was like, yeah, this is exactly what they are doing. This is what they should be doing, and this is what they should continue to do. Because this feels like, once again, this feels like a labor of love. This feels like we are going to update this. We're going to continue the story in the best way that we can.
Right.
We're going to try new things out, but we're still going to stay true to what made this series so iconic for all these decades, man. And I really felt it here with this third season. Really felt
because you could say they made a lot of really, let me see, they made, much like with the J.J. Abrams stuff, right? They made very conscious decisions to cater to people who aren't Star Trek fans, right? They made it to guys like you, where you like it, you don't know everything. You could go dig back and find stuff if you want, but you don't have to. And that's the most important part, right? And you have to know how to reset something. And I think they did a decent enough job with it, right? I do think Discovery made some stumbles. As I say, we'll go back. I could talk about what I think were genuine stumbles in season 1 and what was more, some nitpicking crap that people harp on about. But I was like, well, yeah, they could have fixed that, but like, no, that's to me, that's a tweak. That's not a thing you should harp on about. But yeah, it's designed for you. That's what it is. That's a very conscious decision on their part. And it's not to say, there's one thing I really hate when people say the Star Trek writers don't know what they're talking about. No, these guys, they know their Star Trek material. Like, it have that whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, in there's an episode, Unification 3, there's something in that episode that is one serious Star Trek deep cutter. I'm like, wow, that is a callback, Jared. That is a serious callback. I was like, wait, they pulled from there? Okay. And if you know what to look for it, you'll know what it is almost immediately. If you're like a super deep cut old fan, they know their shit. Like, I'm not gonna tell them, well, I know more about Star Trek than you, but you could tell is they made very conscious decisions, right? Because if some guy on Reddit complaining about it, what they will do is just some boring bullshit that going forward. And no, the Star Trek writers do a smarter job with that, in my opinion. At least in my opinion. That's how I see it. So anyway, yeah, I understand
Right,
where you're
right.
coming from. Hmm.
Yeah, well, thanks. So, this for me was where Discovery really found what it was set out to be. It wasn't just, oh, we're just gonna modernize Star Trek for the sake of it, and because we gain money from CBS, we're gonna make it all flashy just because, and we're gonna do we thing all the time, and not really try to even harken back to the older material, but
Right,
this one here, it really felt like it was doing that. And even when you look back at the last two seasons, they were doing that as well, but not as much, right? But here
right.
you really felt it, mainly because of how, I would say, less canon driven it was. Like with the second season, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I would admit, though, I really had to remember, stuff involving Spock. I mean, his ideals and
Yeah,
just the
exactly.
stuff from
No,
like from
that's
the
one of the
first
no.
from
Yeah,
TOS. Like it drew
exactly.
a
But
lot from
that
TOS so much. I was like, all right, well, dog, I feel like if I watch TOS, if I watch this before watching season two, I would appreciate season two even more. But I
right.
still
No,
enjoy season two for what it was. You know what I mean?
as I
Um,
say, I think making Burnham connected to Spock was one of the bigger errors of the show, because you could have had
oh,
this
really?
character.
Okay.
No, I am in that camp. That's one thing I don't think is a nitpick at all. But I have my own, like, again, most of it is just morning quarterback and complaining on my part, right? What I would have
Right.
done, but it's nothing like it is. But I do think having Burnham be quote unquote Spock's sister, um, I still don't think works all that well. Even though they pay it off reasonably well in this season with something with that episode, right? I still think
Yes. Yes.
they still didn't need it ultimately. But whatever, it's fine.
Okay.
As I say, to me, the good outweighs the bad.
I
And
would argue. I won't argue. I won't argue. But it's
right, right.
your and I assume other Trekkies' opinion. So whatever.
Right, exactly. Is a wheelhouse kind of argument anyway. It's fine. I I still think the good outweighs the bad, because the most important thing is saying we have a that is the most important. How I get from the end of the season, it's like, all right, we have a full reset now, proper reset. In fact,
Mhm.
if they go back to an episodic content, I one thing that kind of hurts the show, the serialized content not really working out too well. Because you're wasting a whole season thinking about a mystery now. And they don't need to do that. They should just kind of hint at a mystery, like how TNG did it and how DS9 did it. Is that you hint at something and then you pay it off, but you don't overthink about it. It's all about the episodes. This season had an episodic approach, but it still had the whole burn thing hanging over your head now. And
Yes,
I
yes,
felt
yes.
you didn't need to pay
Which
that
I
off.
totally enjoyed with this one in
Right,
particular.
right.
Yeah. I
It
did like that there was this overarching thing, but it didn't take away
yeah,
from, well, yeah,
right,
just the episodic stuff. I just seeing these great stories play out, characters having to do their thing and whatnot.
right.
And just to continue on before I get to reading, right? And for me, like while watching this, I felt like the passion was there. And this is once
Yes.
again coming from a non-Trekkie. I felt like we really go into the core of what makes Star Trek work, which is,
Yeah.
and you get this excellent quote at the end of the finale.
Yeah.
That
Yeah. Yeah.
legit hit me, but I was like,
Yeah.
this is exactly what I was feeling, which is
Yeah.
connection. Just
Yeah.
the idea that people of
Yeah.
different races and species could
Right.
connect. Even
Right.
right down to having the Trill character and their situation as well. You know what I mean? Like that
Yeah.
click. Um, Michael and her determination to figure out what's going on with the
Yeah.
burn to bring back that to more or less revive the Federation and Oded
I,
Fair's opinion on it, like how it clashed at first, but how eventually they had to kind of work things out.
well,
Saru,
yeah.
his
Yes.
arc as well, where that went. I was feeling all that. Even right on to Tilly and all. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Right.
just how characters at first kind of don't know where they're about, or sorry, don't know what to make of this person. But here's what we're gonna come in diplomatically. We're gonna try to figure things out. If it comes to us pulling out weapons, so be it. But it's
Right.
all about diplomacy in the end, right? I really felt it also too for McGill Philippa, right? One of my favorite
Right.
characters, played by Michelle Yeoh, and
Right.
I didn't expect how they ended the arc, but I thought it was fitting. It was truly fitting. I know it might have
Yeah.
some
Well,
nitpickers like you took the best character in the show, and you did this, but
no,
you know,
but
given from what she went through the first two seasons, I thought it would. And
right.
last thing I just want to say before get to your view on her character, I felt like her writing, like her dialogue in particular, was the best of her
Yeah.
in the series thus far. Like I
Right.
felt like in the first two seasons, it was a little little clunky, a little hammy at times, you know what I mean? And
Right.
especially the fact that she has this sort of pseudo British accent, so she just delivering those lines in that kind of way. But here
Right.
it felt way more natural. It felt like she was just in that role, and I really felt like she was just having a
Yeah,
blast, even right down to the end. So I love what they did there.
yeah, I super shocked at leaving what they did, what happened to her so open. Because I thought we was gonna have a clear narrative of what was gonna happen with her. 'Cause what I thought he was gonna do is have it where, oh, she's the one who actually started changing up the the mirror universe now, or something like that. I thought they was gonna do that. But then she just vanishes. So they leaving her show pretty open. Because they keep saying that she has uh they keep saying that she's supposed to get a section to the one show. But I was like, what? They
Really?
still going forward. They're still going forward with that. I not getting any feeling we getting that anymore.
All right.
But well,
Well, personally, I don't see a spin-off with her happening. I think she fits perfect in Discovery. I don't think having a branch out to another show makes any sense. But that's just me.
I don't know, but I know she's supposed to get her own show. I know that, but I don't know what it is exactly because
Oh, okay, okay.
the way how they left it open now. So I don't know.
Right.
Um,
Okay, okay.
as I say,
Right.
yeah,
Right. So a few things before I get to read it, right? I dug the new characters, David Ajala being in this as well too.
yeah,
Charisma, I mean, on screen, charisma and whatnot.
yes,
I was buying into the relationship between him and Michael though, but I
right,
just felt at times like it was almost like, well, we have these two black characters, so let me just have them be a couple because, black characters, right? Whatever, right?
right, yeah,
And I also dug Michael's new hairdo. I was like, "What? We do it. We
yeah, yeah,
rocking braids now." I
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. I like that. I like that.
Yeah, as I
I
say,
like
well,
him.
is the rule of thumb is when a character grow their hair, the show does get better now, similar to Riker getting the beard in thing. So yeah, she growing the hair.
Yeah. Right. 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 Also bringing back well, the want to see who the character is. I thought that was fantastic as well too. Well, yes,
Right, yeah,
in easily one of the best episodes of the season here. The action is still well handled. What I mean? Storytelling is well, put together. Dialogue is sharp. You know what I mean? I dug the fact that, ever so often with all the, scientific stuff being told, it's kind of funny that, but that's one part of the charm of the show, like how everybody seems to be able to solve like all these really difficult, like life-threatening problems, you know what I mean? But
right,
that's part of the charm and beauty of the show, in my opinion. It's like, okay, I get it now, I get it now. Or I should say I'm reminded of it, I should say, right?
yes, right,
But yeah, you do get that, especially with Tilly's character and her other crew members as well. Like they just always seem to come up with ideas to solve things on the fly, but it
right,
works, right? The stuff with the Federation, I dug that. The introduction of the new Federation, OMFG. Like you said before with season two, I mentioned it in season one, boy. The visual effects for this, boy,
yes,
wow, this is some Hollywood level shit I
right,
see in here. And I just watch this. I see scenes like, the introduction of the new Federation, just seeing these starships going to warp drive and all that kind of stuff.
yeah,
And
look
I'm
great,
just
yeah,
blown away by all of this. And I'm like, how do you even pull this off?
yeah. Because
How?
all right,
How?
because one
You know?
one one cool thing they brought into the season is the whole programmable matter stuff, right? And the fact that
Yes.
ships could kind of ships could kind of morph into each other and just kind of break apart and do this kind of thing. I love that. It kind of silly, but it's
Yeah, but
again
it's one of those
it's
things
a
you
rule
just
of
had to
cool.
let slide because
Yeah,
it's
it's
the
a rule of
world.
cool.
It's the world of
Yeah,
Star Trek, right? So,
it's a
in particular with bookship, we how
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. And then Discovery
Um,
itself gets upgrades. Like they have the whole the pylons separate from the rest of the ship, but they give a reason why.
yeah,
Like I like that.
yeah. That was real cool. I do agree with you. The villain could have been better, in my opinion. Like it like I got where the character was coming from. This, by the way, is played by Janet Kidder, who is
Yes,
the
it's Margot Kidder's
yeah,
niece setting.
right,
Yeah,
yeah, Margot Kidder's rest in peace niece, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you could tell she was really enjoying the role, you know what I mean, just being this uber evil, you know what I mean,
Right.
bad guy, right? But still, I wish that she wasn't that typical cookie cutter evil villain. You know what I mean? Although I do appreciate that in the second to last episode, they at least kind of fleshed out the character a bit more, her motivations a lot more, right?
Right, right,
And as for the whole thing behind the burn, like it was weird, right? It was
yeah,
weird for what they're going for, but the emotional core of it is what worked
that
for me.
worked exactly. Right,
That
right,
really, really hit me.
right.
Like
That I like.
even
Yeah,
though I was like, all right, once again, I have to let these things slide because it's Star Trek, is the world of Star Trek. Things like this are possible, and they will give you like one or two lines just to explain why, and you just had to buy into it. Okay, I'm not gonna quarrel about it. It'll be like if I was more cynical to the material, I'd just be like, but still that makes no sense, like really, that
right,
makes no sense, But because of the emotional core of that, like the
right.
reason behind it, is like, okay, now I get it. Still, I wish it was a more, you know, serious cause for it, not just
Right.
an emotional cause, right? It's just like it kind of came off like an accident somewhat, and then all
But
this kind of
but
happened. Like, all right,
that's the thing. I don't have a problem with with that part. It's just look, I don't hate it, but it could have do something else with it. I don't know. I'm not sure. I can't tell because I like it's
yeah.
one of those
Well,
trade off
I
things
feel
where
like they should have kept everything, but they could have, like, that could have been the impetus for what really went down with the burn. Like, this was the beginning,
right.
and this is what led to the burn happening. Like the burn should have been more insidious instead of oops. You know what I mean? If
No,
you
but
get what I mean, though.
I didn't mind that because of the actual like cause and motivations of the story. Like I didn't mind that in the end of the day. No. It's like, all right, this happened, and then because of this, and as I said, the implications is interesting, right?
Right. I understand.
That is what I liked about it because it's like, oh shit, that is like the actual thing itself. That not so interesting, but it's like, oh shit, all right, well, spoilers, his mom, right, and emotions over that, right? But the actual implications of wait, how is this caused? Okay, that kind of cool, and you could do something with that. As I said, the joke is dilithium is Ezo now, right? That's the whole thing, right? So there's
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Um,
Right.
no major, right? So that is pretty much it.
Right. So just rounding up now before I get to my rating, right? So I would say that this season here, what I know for the diehard Star Trek Discovery fans, or the diehard Trekkies, probably wouldn't like the season as much as, say, season two. This
Okay,
to me was a season where I was like, okay, I feeling what the creators, what the writers, and everyone involved are going for. I'm
right,
feeling everything with it. I'm loving everything here. This is where they're really coming to form now, like where the series really coming to form. We're not trying to be this over glossy, updated take on the old series, but we're gonna do our own thing. But yet we're gonna stay to the core, the heart of what this series was about from day one.
right,
And
right.
I felt that from episode one go to the very end. And yeah, I loved where the ending took off, and especially that quote to the end where I was just like, I feel that, right?
Yeah,
So in a weird way, this season, not so much the series, well, this season and the series as well, really make me appreciate Star Trek a lot more. What I mean in terms of
right.
the non J.J. Abrams stuff, where it was kind of catered to my sensibilities, and like, oh, I'm not a fan,
Right.
but I like Star Wars, so yeah, this was for me. But here, they really went out their way to kind of show you why this series still stands out now, why this series is so important. I talk about Star Trek, not the
Right.
spin-offs, right? And yeah, I can't be mad at that, right? So this really, I would say like this before I get to it, right? Now I am going to make, I mean, with 2021 coming right after, this whole thing with COVID and more people have time now. Now I'm actually going to make the effort to watch TOS, like at long
Okay.
last. And I'm going to
Okay.
skip it and make any excuse. No, I really want to sit down and watch this show. You know what I
Okay.
mean? So I have to thank Discovery for this. In a weird way, it did, because yeah, boy, like I was kind of reminded in a sense
Right.
of why the show still holds up and will continue to hold up, man. So once you have these people, who want to see this series evolve and grow, but still stay true to what the core is about, yeah, I can't be mad at this, man. Of course, you're gonna have you Trekkies out there who gonna, well, probably nitpick some certain changes or whatnot, but still you're gonna get that stuff now. You're gonna get the love. You're gonna feel it. And for me as a non-Trekkie, I felt that too. And for that show making me now want to go back. No, sorry, make me now want to do my little deep dive and learn more about this world. Yeah, I mean that's a win. So yeah, for me, I'm gonna give this a strong 4 to like 4.5 out of 5, man. I mean, like, no, this is not the best season of the series
Nice.
as far, but this was the most promising for me. This was the one I was like, yes, now I feel it. Now I really feel it, and now I can't wait to see where the series goes now. But in between time, whenever we get the next season of this or Picard or whatnot, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go and watch the whole series, man. And who knows? Maybe next time we talk about season 4, I will have my knowledge. I could tell you things that happened to it. Then you'll come and tell me, no, well, in this season or this show, this is what happened here. So
Yeah.
yeah, thank you, Discovery. You
Yeah.
kind of make me a fan of Star Trek now. Like
Nice.
officially, like wow, like, look at that.
Yeah, well, it did its job. It was excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Discovery. Thank you. You've made me discover what makes Star Trek Star Trek. Thank you.
Right.
Yeah.